The philosophy classroom was alive with anticipation. Professor Rachel, a confident and outspoken atheist, stood at the front, ready to challenge her students with one of the most profound questions in human thought. If God exists and is both all-powerful and all-merciful, why does he allow suffering? Why do innocent people endure pain, loss, and injustice? Wouldn't a truly compassionate God put an end to it all? The room fell silent. Some students nodded in agreement, while others seemed deep in contemplation. Then Salma, a composed and perceptive student, raised her hand. "Professor, before we discuss suffering, shouldn't we first establish whether God exists at all?" Rachel smirked slightly. "Fair enough. Let's start there." Salma leaned forward, her voice calm and assured. "Many argue that God does not exist because science cannot prove him. But can science disprove God?" Rachel tilted her head. "Science deals with observable phenomena. If something cannot be tested or measured, it remains outside the scope of scientific inquiry." Salma smiled. "Exactly. Science does not disprove God. It simply does not deal with the metaphysical. In fact, many fundamental aspects of life lie beyond empirical measurement. Can science see love, consciousness, or morality? No. But we accept their existence because we experience their effects." A student in the back raised his hand. "But if we don't see God, why believe in him?" Salma gestured thoughtfully. "Let's consider an analogy. Imagine an advanced self-driving car. It navigates, detects obstacles, and optimizes fuel consumption. Every component, from sensors to the engine, functions with a specific purpose. Would anyone claim this car randomly assembled itself without intelligent design?" Rachel crossed her arms. "Of course not. Engineers and designers built and programmed it." Salma nodded. "Exactly. Now, compare that to the universe, a system infinitely more complex, governed by precise laws of physics, chemistry, and biology. Every cell, every star, every law is balanced in harmony. If a simple car requires a creator, doesn't the universe, exponentially more intricate, also necessitate an intelligent source?" The class was silent. A student up front hesitantly raised her hand. "But if everything needs a creator, then who created God?" Salma smiled. "That's a thoughtful question. The Quran explains that God is uncreated. He exists beyond time and space. The concept of causality applies to everything within the universe, but God, as the first cause, is beyond those constraints. The laws of physics govern created things, not the creator." Rachel tapped her fingers on the desk. "All right, but even if God exists, why allow suffering?" Salma nodded. "That's a significant question. But first, is all pain inherently bad?" Rachel hesitated. "Well, pain causes misery. How can it be justified?" Salma leaned forward. "Consider this. If someone places their hand on fire, they feel pain. Is that suffering purely bad, or does it serve a purpose?" Rachel frowned. "Pain warns us of danger. Without it, we wouldn't survive." Salma smiled. "Exactly. Pain is not merely a curse, it's a built-in warning system that protects us. Without it, we wouldn't recognize harm, leading to far greater suffering. So, pain itself is not evil. It serves an essential function." Rachel exhaled. "Fine, but what about greater suffering? Earthquakes, diseases, wars?" Salma responded, "Are all disasters truly acts of God, or does human negligence play a role? For instance, Many homes are built in earthquake-prone zones despite scientific warnings. Isn't that a human choice? Rachel shook her head. But why does nature have to be destructive at all? Salma explained, natural events follow scientific laws. Earthquakes occur due to tectonic shifts, hurricanes due to atmospheric conditions. If God constantly intervened, overriding these laws, wouldn't that disrupt the very order that sustains life? A student in the second row raised his hand. What about diseases? Why does God allow illness and suffering? Salma smiled. Disease is another example of natural laws at work. Every illness has a cause, whether viral, bacterial, genetic, or due to lifestyle choices. God does not whimsically impose diseases. Rather, the laws of cause and effect govern them. Our responsibility as humans is to study these causes, develop cures, and promote health using the knowledge available to us. The professor leaned forward. But why doesn't God just eliminate diseases altogether? Salma replied, because disease is part of the dynamic balance of life, just as health is. The Quran encourages us to seek knowledge and find solutions. For every disease, there is a cure, and it is upon you to search for it. Diseases like smallpox and polio once devastated humanity, but through scientific advancements, they have been eradicated. This shows that progress happens when we align ourselves with the natural laws. A student in the back raised his hand. But if God created everything, why create viruses and bacteria that cause disease? Salma nodded. Actually, most bacteria and viruses serve essential functions in nature. Some aid digestion, others maintain ecosystems. Problems arise when balance is disrupted. Take antibiotic resistance. If we misuse medicine, we create stronger bacteria. That's not God's doing, that's human responsibility. Rachel exhaled. All right, but let's talk about moral evil. Why does God allow crimes and oppression? Salma responded calmly, because humans have free will. If God intervened to stop every bad action before it happened, would we still have the ability to choose? Without free will, morality itself would be meaningless. Rachel raised an eyebrow. Then why give free will at all? Salma's voice remained steady. Because free will gives value to righteousness. A student's grade is meaningless if the exam is rigged. Similarly, if people were forced to be good, their morality would have no significance. Rachel sighed. All right, but what about inequality? Why are some people born rich, others poor? Salma replied, wealth is not a measure of divine favor, nor is poverty a punishment. Much of inequality arises from human greed and unfair systems, not from God. That is why divine guidance emphasizes social justice, charity, and economic balance. Rachel tapped her pen against the table. So, belief in God is a rational decision. Salma nodded. Yes, many believe in God through deep reflection, scientific reasoning, and intellectual inquiry. The Quran even challenges us. Do they not reflect upon the creation of the heavens and the earth? Quran 3:191. It invites us to think critically and seek understanding. Rachel exhaled, a hint of contemplation in her expression. You've given me a lot to think about. I may not agree, but I respect how you presented your arguments. Salma smiled. And I respect yours, Professor. True dialogue is how we grow. The bell rang. Students packed their things, still engaged in lively discussion. As Salma gathered her books, Rachel glanced at her, thoughtful. Perhaps, just perhaps, a little less certain than before.